Hi everybody. This is not a weekly Rage fix. However, this is just a lesson on Chanukah that I wanted to share with you all. It'll be a little longer. If you have a little bit longer time, I'd love for you to hear me out if you can. But a lot of people ask, what is the lesson of Chanukah? Chanukah is a festival of lights. And the question is, what is this light? What are we doing? Like the Talmud asks, my Chanukah, what exactly is Chanukah? On every holiday that we have, we all want to make sure that we're getting the lesson and that we're not just going through the motions. Passover, we understand that we remember the slavery that we had, that we endured, and that we were freed, liberated, we're able to serve Hashem, accept the Torah. On Sukkot, we understand that when we sit in the Sukkah, it reminds us of the protection that God gave us while we were traveling through the desert. But the Gemara asks, the Talmud asks, what exactly is Chanukah? And what are we meant to inscribe in our minds and our hearts? What lesson is that? What lesson is that? The truth is, there's probably many lessons. One of the lessons I want to share with you is based on the decrees that the Greeks at that time had made against the Jewish people. I heard this idea from Rabbi Zelig Pliskin. All the decrees had one common denominator. First one, Jews couldn't keep Shabbos. Jews couldn't keep holidays. They couldn't sanctify the new moon. The second one was that the Jewish people couldn't do any circumcision. The third one, this is all not in any particular order, but the third one is that Jews didn't really have any monetary rights. Their money was owned by the Greek government. The fourth one is that women were subjected to having to be on their wedding night with one of the Greek officers before they were with their husband. And they also were not allowed to practice the laws of family purity. And one of the fifth decrees against the Jews was that they could not learn the oral law. The written Torah they allowed them to study. That was actually translated into Greek about 150 years before the Maccabees. And the Greeks had a copy of that. It was called the Septuagint, which is Greek for the 70. The 70 nations of the world studied it. And but the oral law, the Jews weren't allowed to study that. Why not? What was wrong with that? What was wrong with any of these things? What's the common denominator that all these have? And the common denominator is that the Jew is basically stating that there's more to life than just the physical world. The Greeks at that time, the Greek mentality at that time was all about the body, base desires, physical evidence. What they saw is what they get. They didn't believe in the soul, the next world, the idea of anything being holy. So if you keep Shabbos, or if you keep the holidays, or if you keep what's called Rosh Chodesh, when we sanctify the new moon, you're basically telling the Greeks that there's such a thing as actually sanctifying time itself, that time itself has a holiness, a concept that is completely foreign to the Greek mind. What do you mean time has a holiness? It's something that they couldn't fathom. When we sit down Friday night at a Friday night meal, it's a different night. It's not like Thursday night and Wednesday night. There's a certain aura of holiness that's actually in the air. That's a concept that a Greek can't understand because he doesn't see that. It's not in his physical world. It's something that he doesn't understand or comprehend. Circumcision, they're all good with the body, but the Jew wants to try to say that there's a connection by making a circumcision as a covenant, as a sign, as a treaty between the Jews and God. You're using the body to connect you to God. That was something that not something else. Keep God out of the picture because we don't see God. We don't see God anywhere, which is ironic because they believed in a bunch of gods. But only the ones that they saw in front of them is the ones that they believed in. Third of all, when it came to women, the reason why the Greeks had to take the brides on the night of their wedding is to basically try to impress upon the minds of the young couple that are getting married that a woman is there only for sexual pleasure. She's just an object, and he tried to embarrass and lower that woman, that she should feel as such, that by any time she's with her husband after that, he'll have hoped to have made that impression upon her, because for the Greeks, that's what all marriage stood for. And that's why they may have had other wives, that's why they may have had other objects of which they used for their own personal pleasure. That's what it's for. The idea of family purity was completely against that idea. And well, how does a Jew combat that? A Jew combats that by, according to Jewish law, women have to dress a certain way because they're not objects. They're holy people. And the night of the wedding is an incredible night for a new couple that's about to set off. One of the other decrees is that Jews weren't allowed to have any money, because a Jew uses his money to buy a menorah, to buy matzah, to buy wine for Shabbos, different things that the Greeks used their money for. They used it to buy bodily pleasures. Now for us, matzah and wine might be a bodily pleasure as well, but it's a mitzvah, and that they couldn't stand for. That we're using the matzah for a mitzvah. We're using the matzah as a connection between us and Hashem, again, as a concept that was foreign to them. The oral law is also something that they couldn't comprehend. Are you saying that you have a code of what God really meant when he said you shall not do work on Shabbos? Or when he said that on the first day, the 7th month, shall be a day of blowing to you? No such thing. They don't believe in such a thing, such a concept, because it doesn't exist. They don't see it. They can't believe in an oral tradition. And of all ironies, the Jews ended up finding one pure vessel that had oil that was permitted to be used in the holy menorah. And because of that oil, they were able to light a candle, a ner, a flame. And what's unique about a flame? What is unique about a flame? What's unique about a flame is that in the physical world that we live in, when you have a pile of something, when you start taking away from it, that pile diminishes. When you have anything in the physical world, when you take from it, it gets less and less. There's one thing in the world that we live in that no matter how much you take for it, it doesn't diminish, and that is a single candle. A single candle, you can touch 100 other candles to the original little flame, but that little flame will never extinguish. It'll continuously share its light. Now, a candle, if you take a look at it, it's kind of like a magic trick. It's this power that's just there. You can't touch it. It's intangible. Yet somehow, something, it's like a magic trick. It's just there. What does that stand for, though, for a Jew? When a Jew lights the candles Friday night, when a Jew lights his candles on Chanukah, that's specifically the purpose of it. We're transcending the physicality, and we live in a world of holiness. And that's what the candles stand for. Those candles lasted not just for one night, but they lasted for a full 8 days, which was an incredible miracle in and of itself. But the idea of the candle is that that's what the Jew stands for. The Jew stands for a light, and we are the Ki atem hama'at mikol ha'amim, the Torah says, for you are the few among all the nations of the world. What does that mean? That means the Torah is our light, and we study that light, and we're a small little candle among the nations of the world. And as much as they try to take away from our candle will never extinguish, because as much as they can try to take away from it by attaching their own candles or wicks, as it were, to us, to try to draw away from us, to try to diminish us, that candle still exists. Which, to briefly go into just another small topic, is that a Jew believes in God, and because of that belief in God, we also believe that life, therefore, has an incredible value. If all you believe is that life came here randomly and you accidentally got here, so then what Hitler ultimately did, or what the Greeks did, there's nothing wrong. And who cares? In a million years, Hitler will just be a blip on the radar of history. So he killed the millions of people. So what? What happened? What was so wrong with what he did? If people are just accidents, so he just killed a few accidents. So we're intelligent accidents. So we're more intelligent than grass. So there's nothing wrong with destroying computers unless it belongs to somebody. So we're just living computers. Our life is purposeless. Our life is valueless. At the end of the day, who cares? We have to build up society. But for what reason? What reason are we building up society so that in 1,000 years we're still existing to do nothing? What's the point of it? And that's a Greek philosophy. That's a Greek way of looking at it. Because the Greek didn't believe in a spiritual. The Greek didn't believe in a higher purpose or a higher function. So when the Talmud asks, "Mai Chanukah?" What is Chanukah? We're supposed to remember that there was a candle that burned. It didn't burn for one day. It was a candle that burned for 8 full days. What's 8? Usually 7 is a number of completeness. Shabbos is 7 days because Shabbos is the 7th day because the work week is 6 days, and then the week culminates in a Shabbos. When something goes to 8, it transcends that completeness in a way. And the Jew stands for that. The Jew stands for, it's not enough 7. You got to take it to that next step. A Jew stands for that next step. A Jew transcends the physicality and lives in a world of spirituality. And that's why that fire, A was a fire, and B, it lasted for 8 days. So when the Talmud asks, what is Chanukah? What is the lesson that we are supposed to learn? The fact that the candles burn for 8 days is a time for us to be happy and to have thanks to Hashem. Thanks to God that we are who we are and that we're living for a purpose. People are really down on themselves and they go through life in somewhat of a stupor or an inward depression. Even though they may be smiling on the outside, but inwardly they're missing something. Why is that? They're missing something because they have no idea where they're supposed to be going. They're following the masses, but they don't have a plan. They don't have a goal. They don't feel like they're accomplishing. We're happy though, because we have a map that was written out for us about how to live our life. And we know when we sit down Friday night at that Shabbos table that we are accomplishing. We know when we light those candles Friday night and those candles get lit for 8 nights, we know we take that message to heart. And we know what life is all about. And we're thankful for that. And Hanukkah is a time to thank Hashem and to be incredibly happy. I hope you all enjoyed Hanukkah. Today's the last day of Hanukkah, and they say that the last day of Hanukkah, Zeis Hanukkah, is the source for all incredible blessing that can fill one throughout the entire year. So I wish you all a wonderful year. In a sense, it's, I guess, a new year in a sense. But I just want to wish everybody well, and let's take the lessons of Hanukkah and make it part of our lives as well.